Hi, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show. Today, like every other day, we got exciting guests coming onto the show, and today is definitely no different. Let me get right into this particular episode because this is impactful, very impactful story about a young lady who dealt with a relationship of different situations. After hearing her story, I gotta admit, I cried because she shared with me the outcome of it. Without further ado, well, first, let me welcome her to the show and giving her the biggest heartfelt thank you for coming on to share this story all the way from Black Hollywood, Atlanta, Georgia, the one, the only, Shawn Howerton. What's up, baby girl?
Hello, my sweet friend, Andre. It's so good to be here with you today.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Okay. Tell the viewers a little bit about you before we dive deep into this, the different facets of your life. Because definitely when we talk about that beast frame of mind on this show, this is that beast frame of mind. Tell the viewers a little bit about you first.
Well, I was born and raised in Atlanta. I came from an immigrant mom who migrated here to the States when she was 15. My father was a Vietnam veteran, both of which only had high school educations. They both left high school as juniors in high school. I had a very poor childhood growing up, worked my way through college and graduate school. I met my ex-husband. When I met him, we were both getting our MBAs, had a very successful career as a consultant, and I stayed home to have a family. We had 2 sets of boy-girl twins. And I was a homemaker for 25 years, supporting him and taking care of our home and raising our children. During that time, it became very evident over the years that my ex-husband was extremely abusive. He was a covert, malignant narcissist. And the best way I can describe that for your viewers is think about, Chinese water torture. That drip of water just keeps dripping. At first it's nothing and you can, ignore it and not pay attention to it. But over time, it drives you insane. That's the whole purpose. So a narcissist's goal is to break you down little by little by little. And the more broken you become, the more they come at you. My narcissistic ex-husband was extremely abusive. And by the time I got out of that relationship, I was pretty much a shell of myself.
When you talk about your husband, what did you know about your husband prior to meeting him? What did you know about him? I mean, you worked together. You had to have some type of conglomerate, some type of repertoire. You started a business together and so forth. What did you know about him prior to getting even involved in a relationship? What do you know about his background, his family? Take me down there a little bit.
Right. It's interesting because when I started dating my ex-husband, I was about 20. I just had my 25th birthday, which I celebrated with him, and we were friends. I started out as friends. I had made it very clear in the beginning that I did not have a romantic interest in him, but my ex-husband was always a very successful, outgoing, competent man. So when I met him, he really had it together. As a 25-year-old man, he had bought his first home. He was also getting his MBA. He came from a Southern Baptist family. He seemed extremely kind and caring and attentive. And I slowly fell for him over time. There wasn't that spark of romantic feeling for him, but I thought he would always be a loyal, hardworking, kind, loving partner.
Mhm.
And that could not have been further from the truth.
So you was already putting in your mind what you thought should be or should have been the ideal happily ever after. What was your family like? You said you grew up with nothing. You shared
Right.
with me even the trauma that your dad suffered by going into the military. Take me down your family's path a little bit.
Okay. So my father was born in Calhoun, Georgia. He
I
was
know where
born
that is.
There you go. That's right. He is very poor. He was one of four. His father was a severe alcoholic. His mother was murdered. So he was raised by his aunt. When he got to be 17, he wanted to leave the small town, and you can't join the armed services until you're 18. But his father signed off at 17 for him to join. So my father left the small town and went off to Vietnam. In Vietnam, he described Vietnam as a hellhole. He said they would take our soldiers and tie them down to these huge ant mounds and pour honey all over them and let the ants just eat them alive.
Mm.
He said when he first got there, the mortars were coming in so strong he couldn't sleep, but you eventually get used to it. He used to call me Shawnee Shawn. And he said, Shawn, you would be amazed at what your body and what you can get used to. You can get used to anything if given enough time. And so he talked about how he was sleeping and he woke up to a mortar hitting the tent and it blew his best friend apart. He said there was just body pieces everywhere. And what they would do to our soldiers back then is they would drop crates of beer and marijuana in on them. They thought they were helping our soldiers by keeping them self-medicated. But these soldiers came home with complex PTSD and substance abuse problems.
Mm-hmm.
Many of the vets that were in Vietnam were exposed to Agent Orange. Agent Orange, if you've not heard of it and are not familiar with it, it's a pesticide that they sprayed because the mosquitoes and the bugs there were eating our soldiers up. So they would spray the Agent Orange. Come to find out, the Agent Orange affected these soldiers in such a way that most of their firstborn children were born handicapped. My sister was born mentally retarded. My father came back. He was so incredibly broken that he had a very difficult time with daily life. He became a barber. My mom also got her barber's license. They owned a business together when I was a small child, but my father could not keep his demons at bay. Mm-hmm. He was hurting. When we self-medicate or we're doing a lot of whatever the case may be, it could be porn, it could be gambling, whatever the case may be, we're covering up pain. We're trying to deal with it in such a way to medicate somehow through it. And that's mm-hmm. what he was doing. So my parents divorced when I was young, and my father was in and out of prison because of the DUIs that he kept getting. Eventually, he died at 62 of a massive heart attack. His heart was enlarged from the Agent Orange. My sister, she had seizures for most of her life and was taking Dilantin, which is a very controversial seizure medication, which weakens your bones. My sister fell. She broke her hip and got pneumonia at 43 and died in the hospital. Mm-mm. My mom, I think she did the best that she could. She's still around. She's very elderly now, but my mom grew up in Lebanon watching her father beat her mother over and over and over and beat all of them. She was one of 5. They were all beaten. The Middle East, as you know, is still a place that can be very tumultuous. Mm-hmm. And my mom did the best she could, but she wrestled with her own demons. So growing up, I was not raised in a very healthy environment. Mm-hmm. So when I met my ex-husband, a lot of the controlling, a lot of the inability to connect, to really be there, have a healthy relationship, felt familiar to me.
Right.
And it wasn't red flags going off. Okay. So I stayed.
Okay. When you say that you stayed in a relationship, I get it. We have tons of individuals that come on the program, and they share pretty much verbatim the same type of story. When did you start realizing that there was what you thought was happily ever after clearly was a demon coming out of the mist?
That's a very good question. That's a very good question. The demon came later. I knew that I had married someone that had kind of done a bait and switch on me on my honeymoon. There was not physical intimacy. I was looking forward to my honeymoon like any other
Right.
red-blooded American, you know, and it was not the romantic honeymoon that I thought it was going to be. He was very cold. He started to be very controlling. I came home from my honeymoon and called one of my bridesmaids that was in my wedding and crying, saying, I think I've made a mistake.
Did you not think that you made a mistake? Didn't mean to cut you off. Did you have any regrets going down that aisle?
I didn't. Not one.
So you was all for this.
I was all in.
Okay. So then you go
all in.
On your honeymoon. What happens on the honeymoon that you just felt something just wasn't what it's supposed to be?
A few things. I was looking around at the other couples and they were best friends. They were laughing together and buddies, you know, and I was beginning to realize when I always had a very loud sense of humor, you know, and very boisterous and kind of off-colored sense of humor. I'll say things that, you know, shouldn't probably say, but I find it funny and
Yeah.
And he was fine with that. Then we get on our honeymoon and I'm trying to be myself and he would say, shh, you're being loud. Shh, don't say that. I can't believe you said that. And it started making me self-conscious. When we were clubbing, this was back when you could smoke in a restaurant or in a club. And it was 1998 and we were at a disco and we were all drinking and having fun and smoking. And I said, hey, give me a cigarette from some of the couples that we had met. And I went to smoke and he said, I can't believe you're doing that. Why are you? And he knew he didn't have a problem with it before. Mm-hmm. Suddenly everything about me was a problem. My body, I was fat. I was too athletic looking. I was too loud. I shouldn't say those things. I shouldn't do those things. And that just starts breaking you down over time, you know, and I realized I was afraid something funny would come to mind and I would want to say it. And then I would remember, oh, I probably shouldn't say that. Or I'd laugh loud and then I would catch myself thinking, oh, I shouldn't have laughed so loud. And over time, that just deteriorates your personality and who you are.
How did you see yourself changing from that moment? Because like you said, you're going to speak your mind. You're going to be you. You're going to dance. You're going to do what you need to do to be yourself. How did that start affecting you? That now you got to basically walk on eggshells.
Right. I was a woman that worked her way through college. I paid every dime of it, and I graduated magna cum laude. I was a woman who got an MBA and was a consultant traveling all over the Southeast by myself. And this was before, you know, we had cell phones with a map on it. You had to fly in, go to the rentals car, then, you know, draw out how to get to the hotel. And you have to turn on your light and look at your directions to try to get there. And the next morning, get up and go to customer site. There was no phone to guide you. There was no GPS. So, you know, we had to do things the old fashioned way. And I turned into a woman who was afraid to speak her mind, who was self-conscious of everything she said or did, had no friends because she second-guessed everything that she said. I never left the house. My whole world became my children and my ex-husband and my home. And I began to drink. Not so much at first, a glass or two of wine at night, and then more and more, and just shutting down and shutting down and shutting down. It was a terrible experience.
Shawn, I'm going to go back a minute. When you came back from your honeymoon, and once again, thank you for coming on and sharing this story. You said you contacted your friend. What was the reasons that you contacted your friend? What were you feeling at that moment when you contacted your friend?
Pain, hopelessness, regret. But, we didn't know what narcissism was back then. And my ex-husband presented himself in such a way as such a nice guy. And we had a pretty home together and he had a nice job. And she said to me, the first year of marriage is always difficult. You'll get through this. It's just an adjustment. But that's not what it was. It was abuse. It was someone trying to control me and shut me down and manipulate me.
Did your parents witness this as well?
Interesting you should say that. My mom, the whole time, she would say to me, Peter's controlling. He's controlling. You've changed since you've met him. You're not the same person. You're not the same person. My father never said anything to me, but interestingly enough, after my divorce, my mother shared with me that my father had a lot of concerns around Peter and worried for me.
It seems like, I get it, you're Catholic, correct?
Yes, and did not want a divorce. Didn't
want a divorce. You stayed in it despite. Well, let me rephrase that. You stayed in a situation because you wasn't familiar with the new environment, the new medical terminology, narcissistic personalities or whatever. This is unfamiliar territory. But with that said, you have a set of 4 twins. Does that change? Does that change the dynamic of his personality? How does that affect you guys? Is it a positive? Is it a negative?
Well, let me address, Andre, you made a very valid point about staying in the relationship. So in my home, my needs were never met. As a child, my needs were never met because my parents were dealing with their own demons and I was alone because my sister was special needs. So I was alone. Mm-hmm. So not having my needs met in my marriage was nothing new to me. And because we had something, we had a beautiful home and he wasn't an alcoholic and he wasn't a screamer like my mom. My mom was also narcissistic. I didn't see the red flags, although they were there.
Okay.
We had the 2 sets of twins and I was happy. After I had the first set, I can't even begin to tell you the joy that I had. And then when I had the second set, my whole life revolved around, good or bad, it did. It revolved around those 4 babies. Mm-hmm. And I was so centered on them. And I thought, well, we have a beautiful home. We have 4 beautiful children. He's a good provider. He doesn't hit me. He's not an alcoholic and he'll never cheat on me. So I'm not going anywhere ever. I'm going to stay no matter what I'm in. And the abuse escalated to a point where he was shoving me. He stood in front of me and said, I wish we lived in a different country so I could beat you. He was blatantly cheating on me, hiding his phone. He would put me down in front of the children. He became extremely abusive and I just couldn't do it anymore. I was drinking more and more and more. I was losing a lot of weight. I'd gotten very sick at one point and was in ICU. I couldn't do it anymore. It deteriorates you.
How many years did that take when you realized that this was really taking its toll on you? About how old were the kids at this point?
Yeah. So what happened was when the 2 oldest, the first set of twins, when they turned 16 and started driving, we got on Life 360, which is a parent app. Well, it could be any app. You can see how their speed is, where their location is. It has a crash detection. So Peter, I, and the kids were all on it. And it was then that I started noticing, I was just able to pick my head up. I'd had 4 kids born 2 years apart. My youngest daughter had leukemia when she was 3. So she was in and out of Children's Hospital for 2.5 years. And here I am running to sports and homework. And, I'm doing everything I can because I want them to have the childhood I never had.
Right.
So when these kids start to get older and they're driving and I have a chance to kind of pick my head up and I start looking around, I noticed that he traveled a lot. And I noticed when he traveled, he would go from bar to bar to bar to bar and not get in until midnight. Well, I traveled too with my job. I know what it's like to travel. I might go to dinner or whatever, but then I go back to my hotel room and I watch TV or whatever. I'm not out consecutive nights. And he was hiding his phone and he was changing it up in the bedroom. And I knew, woman knows, you just know. And I talk about my marriage as a 3-legged stool. It was wobbly. Mm-hmm. The 3 legs that held my marriage together were, I thought he was faithful, thought he was a good father, and I thought he was a good provider. Mm-hmm. And when the infidelity hit, the stool just fell. There was no coming back. And the abuse just became intolerable. The lies. He brought me home chlamydia and lied about it, said it had to be a false positive. And I believed him. I wanted so badly to keep my family together. We had built this life. We'd been together at that point for 18 years.
I know what some of the people are probably thinking. That's crazy. Why would you stay there? I would have left a long time ago, But the bottom line is, you never know what you might do until you've been put in that situation.
Excellent. Because if somebody had said to me when I was 18, 20, 25, 30 even, maybe even 35.
Right.
But not at 48 when I started finding this out, or 45, somewhere around there. If someone had ever said to me, I would have been like, oh my gosh, what, don't you have any self-confidence? Don't you have any gumption? Can't you take care of yourself? Why would you put up with that? Again, the reason we have sayings, walk a mile in my shoes and things of this nature are because until you walk a mile in someone else's shoes, don't judge. You don't know what you would do in that situation. You have no idea.
How bad did it get for you? You said that you was in the hospital twice. Mm-hmm. And recently, 2 years ago, thank God that you got out of that situation. Share a little bit about just how bad you had to get out of this rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm. So every time I went to him with anything, he would explode. He would say, I'm not going to argue with you. He would tell me I drove him to cheating on me. See, he was caught in our family room by our youngest daughter, one night on dating apps. And it came to find out he was on 6 of them, one of them being Ashley Madison, which is a very famous hookup site. There was a big news story that broke about 10 years ago with Ashley Madison. Someone had hacked it and got all the phone numbers out of the database. And a lot of divorces happened after that because, a lot of men and women found out that their spouses or significant others' phone numbers were in the database. So he had been cheating on me for quite some time, and he just refused to take accountability. He said, I drove him to the dating apps, and I was just deteriorating more and more.
Did you believe that you drove him? Because you're still trying to justify the situation. Were you literally taking some of these things and trying to departmentalize these things to make this work? Because you still haven't sought the treatment for yourself. So are you departmentalizing all of this, trying to justify that, maybe I could have been the one that did this.
Of course. I don't now, but at the time when he said, you drove me, he said, you should be glad that you're married to me. Any other man would have left you by now. Just when you say that to someone, and that person, remember, a narcissist has ill intent. Everything that comes out of their mouth is a lie and a manipulation. You or I are healthy people. So when someone we love says something like that to us, we're coming at it from a frame of mind that says, okay, maybe I did. Let me think about what they said to me and analyze it. And could this be true? I want my marriage to work. So if my spouse is saying these things to me, I feel bad that he feels this way. So let me give of myself and say, could this be true? Right? Remember, someone like that wants to destroy you. You are wanting to fix your marriage. You're at total opposite ends of the spectrum here. Mm-hmm. So did I feel like I could have done that? Of course. I loved this man. I loved my family. I wanted to keep my family intact. So if I was responsible, then all I've got to do is fix it, right? And then my marriage will be saved. My family will be saved. But that's not how it works. That's what you're thinking when you're in that scenario. But we know that's not the case. Hindsight is always 20/20. He was just doing that because narcissists don't take any responsibility at all. I was taking all the responsibility because I was carrying the weight of the marriage and the weight of the home and the weight of the family and the weight of all of it. And he was just dumping it on me. And eventually you break. You can only carry the weight for so long.
When did you break?
Yeah. So I filed, I filed for divorce, and it was December of 2021. And when I gave him the divorce papers, I remember it was Christmas, and he sat on the bed and he said, Shawn, are you sure this is what you want? And he looked so crushed. And the way narcissists work, they can be so Jekyll and Hyde, so cruel and mean, and then nice, and attentive and loving. And when he sat on the bed, I remember it was like a dagger through my heart. And I thought, maybe I've made a mistake. Maybe I did. And he started with me. He said, I love you. I never would have left you. I always love you. I'll always be in love with you. And he never said to me, 25 years, the man never said to me, I really love you, Shawn. I truly love you. Never, not once, not ever. Suddenly he's telling me all of this. So what did I do? I started to backtrack. And when I did that, he went at me full force. He filed for his own divorce proceedings. He told me he was going to cut me loose. He told me, you're going to regret this. He told me, let's see how this pans out. And we went into the divorce proceedings and he offered me nothing. My attorney turned to me and said, this makes me want to tell him to go F himself. He didn't care about me at all. Not at all. He moved out. I was still living in the marital home. Our divorce finally went through. He pushed it through. He wanted it to go through very quickly. It went through very quickly. It was a very tumultuous divorce. He started dating 2 months after the divorce was final. I'm still living in the marital home, waiting for my set of twins, my youngest set of twins, to graduate. And I find out he's dating already. That, along with how cold and callous he was with, we had an estate sale and everything was being sold. He walked in with his baseball cap on. He just worked out that morning and he was all happy and he was all picking through what he wanted. And just the way I couldn't understand how someone that I had spent 25 years with could toss me out like a piece of trash, just a piece of trash. And I couldn't deal with it. I tried to kill myself. I tried to commit suicide. It was not successful. I got home from that suicide attempt and he started in on me right away. When the house was going to get sold, I was a real estate agent. When was I going to get it ready? When was I going to get it sold? This is just bombarding me.
Shawn, not to cut you off, how did he react
That's a great question because
to the suicide attempt? Did he take any accountability to your breakdown?
No. I'm going to give you an example of how he handled it. I was home 3 days after my first suicide attempt, and I had a second suicide attempt. This one, I made sure I took enough pills this time that I was not going to survive this one. I drove to a secluded cemetery, and I was found by a preacher.
What?
I was found by a preacher. I was put on a ventilator and was in the hospital. When I came home from that one, he called me and he said, I remember. He said, Shawn, and I said, yes. He goes, you need to, he was starting to tell me, you need to do something. And then he goes, heard him take a breath, stop. And he goes, how are you? Like he had to force himself to ask me how I was. And I said, I'm fine. And he said, good. He said, when are you going to get the house on the market? I said, I need some time. I just had 2 back-to-back suicides. I'm very weak. I need a little bit of time.
Wait a minute, Shawn. He said to you, while you're in the hospital, put the house on the market ASAP.
Yes. Gets better. I said, after I said, well, I need a little bit of time. I need some time to recover. I've had 2 back-to-back suicides. He said, I'm going to have you declared mentally incompetent. I'm going to have the house listing taken away from you, and I'm going to have you put in an insane asylum.
Wow.
And I said, okay. So I'm sure our children would like to know what you would like to do to their mother. And he said, I never said that.
How were your kids during these suicides? Where were your kids, and how did they react to all of the stuff that was going on?
Not very well, obviously. They did not and still do not understand that they don't know what happened to their mother. Their father convinced them that their mother was unstable and an alcoholic. In truth, I was being abused by a very abusive man. There was a time when I said to him, I said, you are trying to convince the kids that I'm mentally unstable and I'm an alcoholic. And I remember the laugh. It was very wicked. He laughed. He said, you're doing that yourself. I played right into his hands. So when you're being abused, you're just trying to survive. You don't know, you want the pain to stop. You don't know how to make it stop. You just want it to stop, whether it's self-medicating, whether it's suicide, whatever it is, you don't know how to escape. Every which way you look, every which way you turn is a dark hole, and you don't know how to get out of it.
So were your kids, to your experience, do you think he was coaching your kids?
I know he was coaching my kids. I know he was. I know he was. I've been told that he was. And after my second suicide attempt, I saw an email where he sent my police report to the children. And in the subject line, it said, keep this close. What he meant was, look what kind of woman your mother is, sends this out to my children. the mother of his children, keep this close, meaning this is what kind of person your mother is, this suicidal, whatever. Yeah. Knowing he drove me to suicide, knowing he abused me. This is how sick these people are.
Where's the support group now for you? So much is going on. How do you recapture you? How do you bring hope back into hopelessness into your life?
Mm-hmm. To be completely honest with you, there are not very many people who can deal with this. There's not very many people who believe you. There's not very many people who can understand what you've been through. Mm-hmm. And I had to do it myself. And that's the honest to God truth. The saying about pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's what you have to do. Sometimes you have to say, no one is going to help me. I've got to do this myself. And that's what I had to do. I had to finally make a decision. Was I going to live or was I going to die? I wanted to die. I tried really hard to die, but God had a different plan for me. And I don't know, if someone has faith or not, but I know that I'm here for a reason, and that reason is to help other people through what I went through so that they don't end up in a cemetery with a bunch of prescription pills and alcohol wanting to die.
How is the relationship with your boys, your family in general? Because you mentioned a lot of pain. You mentioned a lot of manipulation. And more importantly, you mentioned something that was very profound. People don't believe you. Mm-hmm. But that's not the issue right now, because the issue is whether or not somebody believes your story, unless they went through it or whatever. The bottom line is the whole chain of events caused a ripple effect in the one part of your life that you like the most, which is your kids.
Children.
How is that affecting your children right now?
Yeah. Well, narcissists, it's very common. I hear this in the people that I coach every day. The number one thing they can do, especially to a woman, to a man as well. I'm not saying that children aren't as important to a man. They are, but to a woman is to turn her children against her. And this is very common in narcissistic abuse. My relationship with my children is very strained. My oldest son, who I love dearly, it's a strained relationship. My husband, ex-husband, told my son, this is just an example of kind of undermining and making me look like I'm a doormat and nothing. My oldest son in high school, like any teenager, was not keeping his room clean and was not listening and was being just a teenager. And I said to him, he was 17 years old. He had stacks and stacks and stacks of laundry up there that he had not put away, and his room was messy. And I said, you're going to start doing your own laundry. My ex-husband went upstairs, got the laundry, brought it downstairs, and looked at me in front of my children and says, you will wash his laundry. I was like, I'm a maid. After the divorce, when I was still living in the home, my ex-husband shut off the credit cards. I had no way to buy gas. I had no way to buy food. And so I called him and I was begging him. I said, please, please turn the credit cards back on. Don't do this, please. And he had me on speaker. My son, he said something to me that was not nice. And I said, don't talk to me that way. And my ex-husband spoke up and said, he can talk to you any way he wants. You are no longer my wife. I'm not the mother. I'm not a human being. I don't deserve respect. So my relationship with my children is strained. A huge part of that is because they were taught that your mother is nothing. Your mother doesn't deserve respect. Your mother is not a good person. Your mother is mentally unstable. Your mother is whatever he put in their minds. And what are children supposed to believe? They see their mother acting out of character. They see her in reactive abuse or self-medicating or suicidal. They don't know what to believe. It's very difficult for them to say when the one parent who's doing all the abuse looks stable, the one parent that they feel like they can depend on while the other parent seems to be falling apart. They can't, how do they say, well, gosh, the one parent I thought that was the stable parent is the one abusing the one that I can't depend on because she's so broken or he's so broken. That's got to be terrible for children.
Shawn,
it is horrible.
Shawn, when you was going through the divorce, what did the legal system do? What did the court say with the situation? Because I've never been married. I'm pretty sure the judge asked questions like, why are you getting a divorce? Did he present evidence to validate these allegations and the trap that was woven for you? Like, before we wrap up, what did the legal system do for you? Or did they do anything?
Legal system is very broken. So the legal system, they're so far behind, the courts are, that they want you to settle in mediation. So you go to mediation, you're forced to go to mediation, where you're supposed to negotiate. Well, there's no negotiating with a narcissist, right? As we got closer to going before a judge, and where Peter, we're going to have to edit that out. Can't say Peter.
Okay.
It's my ex's name. Where we got closer to going to court, there was a time where you would have to do discovery, which you have to swear under oath that what you're saying is true. And they get a chance to, get your phone, get your laptop, whatever. That's when my ex started, okay, I'll start negotiating. I will start trying. So we never got in front of a judge. What I can tell you from my clients who have is that, the judges have no patience for any type of physical abuse a lot of times, much less mental abuse. I can also tell you that the 2 times that the police were called in my marriage, both times he convinced the police that I was the problem. Our police officers are not trained in domestic violence at all. Both times my ex-husband accosted me. And unless you're physically bleeding or, visibly hurt, there's really nothing that they can do, I suppose. But nonetheless, when you have a victim who I'm shaking, I'm irate, I'm upset, and he's very calm and cool, collective, and he's talking to them. Yeah, she's just, I don't know. I think she's had too much to drink. I think, I don't see the problem here. Nothing's happened. I don't know why she called you. So the police aren't trained either.
So that is a journey from hell. Before we wrap up, what are you doing now to impact other individuals that may be going through the same scenario? What kind of hope and relief are you providing now?
Right. Well, my first goal with my clients, it depends on what stage they come to me in, but it's always to get them out safely. It's always to have a plan. It's always to make sure that they understand where the narcissist is coming from. And that's not a place of love or caring or understanding or empathy. The narcissist will beat you down. They will bloody your body and they will step over you and not care. And it's super important that my clients understand what they're in for. They're in for the fight of their life. So that's number one. Number 2, I like to take my clients through the whole trauma bond after they start to get out of these relationships. The trauma bond is a real thing. A trauma bond has been akin to coming off of serious street drugs, morphine, crack, You want your abuser back. You beg your abuser to come back to you.
Mhm.
And lastly, the third approach I give my clients is called to come back. It's how to rebuild your life, how to recognize red flags, how to nurture your inner child so that you can go back out into the world wiser, better, and stronger.
How can the viewers reach out to you, Shawn?
I am at Shawn K. Howerton on all social media, whether it be Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, or YouTube.
Shawn, before we wrap up, how widespread is this amongst individuals that you have seen so far? Like, what's the percentage of this? Is it out of control?
It's interesting because there's a lot of research being done on this. The research is reporting back that social media has started to cause an epidemic of narcissists. The percentage is that it's less than 1%, but that is not possible. It is simply not possible. Remember, narcissism, unless you're an overt, in-your-face narcissist, now those people are not dangerous. The overt, in-your-face, over-the-top narcissists are not typically dangerous. It's the covert, malignant ones that are typically dangerous, and they fly under the radar. It's very difficult to get a diagnosis on one.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to go to therapy, but it's becoming more and more evident with social media that these people are coming out of the woodwork. It's not really understood why. I can tell you that in my relationship, when the internet and social media became a big phenomenon, I saw a huge shift in him, a huge shift. When he was able to get on dating apps and start receiving supply, it made a big change in him.
Is it more women? Is it more men?
It's both.
So the scales tip evenly?
Correct. Just as many men as women.
Shawn,
and the women,
go ahead.
The women out there, they use their sexuality to lure men in. It's like, these people have been around forever. You've always heard of the Black Widow in regards to women who lure men in, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what they do. They're like the Black Widow. They've been around for a long time. We just didn't recognize it and we didn't have a name for it. The whole saying, a wolf in sheep's clothing,
Mm-hmm.
That's a covert narcissist.
I'm going to ask one more question before we wrap up. What should a person look out for? You've been down that road. What are maybe a few signs that a person needs to be aware of? And the reason that I'm saying this, if it's not familiar, you don't look until it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things you should look out for?
Mm-hmm. Couple of things. One, when they start to try to change you, don't say that, don't do that. When they put down your appearance, you're too loud. Why are you interested in that? When they first meet you, they're going to be interested. They're going to mirror you. They're going to be interested in everything that you're interested in, the foods that you like, the music that you like, the places you like to travel. And you're going to notice over time, they're going to start criticizing you for what you like. It's going to kind of take a shift, right? And then the second one is watch actions, not words. Watch actions, not words. Someone can tell you how much they love you and appreciate you, but are they showing you that they love you and appreciate you? They can tell you they're being loyal, but are they putting their phone face down? Are they always taking their phone with them to the bathroom or wherever they go? Watch the actions.
Before we wrap up, leave the viewers with something that keeps you in that beast frame of mind before we wrap up.
The beast frame of mind. Don't let anyone tell you who you are. Ever. Know who you are. Because if someone else is telling you who you are and you don't know who you are, you're going to believe them. And they can tell you anything.
Ladies and gentlemen, This has been another exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Crayton Show.